Hello and welcome to Enquire to Choir. My name is Eva and I'm here to help you, fellow choir people. New choir members. Yay! We love to have them. We love the opportunity to have a choir audition which is successful. People pass the audition and you're looking forward to having new singers who can really sing well, or having new singers who can make a progress for the choir in general. And that's all great. However, incorporating new choir members in the choir can affect the choir both positively and negatively. It depends who the new people are who are coming to the choir, in what kind of a choir they're coming into as a group, as people, who the choir is, who the choir consists of. So, as you probably know, anything can happen and you never know. You can have the best singer who is coming to the choir and that very singer disrupts everything. Or, of course, they come to a few rehearsals and never come back, which is something you really do not want to happen because you want new singers. If we invite someone to the choir or tell them they can join the choir, we want them to stay and we want them to be efficient. This skill, how to incorporate new choir members, for them to stay, for them to feel comfortable, for them to feel like a comfortable addition to the choir for the rest of the people in the choir, needs to be learned and practiced. It comes with experience, but this channel exists because I want to save you some time. So in this video, we're going to talk about the way I incorporate new singers in my choirs, and I have to say they prove to be effective. So let's start with the video. This is not the first time we've done this topic on the channel, but we've done it in a different way. There is a video here that talks about how to get new singers and how to keep them. And this video is going along the lines of that topic. You can watch the video later, and I highly recommend you watching that video. But for now, let's define what do we want out of our new singers. As we said, we want them to come to the choir, to be efficient, to really be a valuable member of the choir. We want them to give their best. We want them to give their best as they have been heard at the choir audition. They passed in order for them to be a part of the choir, if there was one. But we also want to save time as choir directors. We want to save that transition period. Because the problem when new choir members arrive to the choir, you have to teach them what the rest of the choir already knows. Because your choir actually really knows a lot of things. They know not just only the repertoire, but they know what kind of a choir director you are. What are your rules? What kind of a choir is it? How the rehearsals are planned out. The way you work with the choir. The amount of, stress you bring them. Are you an optimistic or pessimistic choir director? What do you expect them to know? The main thing to think about is no matter is it one singer or 50 of them, I've been in both situations. The new choir members, the new choir singers arriving to the rehearsal for the first time after the choir audition, they will affect the choir sound. It will take a while for them to incorporate in the choir sound, and the choir sound will change in the long run, especially if we're talking about more than a few new choir singers, or we're talking about a very prominent one new choir member. We want to give them the best chance they could get, and we want to save time for that transitional period, starting from the very first rehearsal they arrive to the point when the choir sound is balanced again, to be as quick as possible. However, you have to take your time. Some things take time, and these things take time. You want your new choir members to stay in the choir. Every good singer is valuable. And speaking of what is a good singer, what is a good choir singer? Well, things can happen. Just because someone was good at the choir audition where they were singing solo doesn't mean they will necessarily be a good singer in a choir. The biggest problem with that is for that you need time, and for that you need them to be in a choir. In my experience, There is a lot you can do before the first rehearsal. And please know that this idea that I'm talking about in the next few minutes comes from the fact that the singers pass the audition to come to the choir, but then we as a choir and I as a choir director have to pass their audition, because they also, as new choir singers, as individuals who are deciding on whether they will be dedicating the time for the choir, whether the choir is worth putting into their schedule. So the choir and I, as the choir director, have to pass their audition. I don't think it's fair to just assume that any new singer will be able to just, arrive and start singing the best they can. I think that's a very unfair assumption, because as an individual, they're coming to what is probably a well-established group of people with their connections and with their social environments. And to be a single person who is going into that group can be very daunting. And what is the most daunting thing when you're coming to that kind of a place? If you do not know the rules, and it turns out that you're breaking the rules or going against some kind of a schedule without even knowing. So that is the reason why before the first rehearsal, I arrange an introductory class for the new choir members. It takes only an hour. It doesn't matter how many people. It's just important that it's more than one. If there's only one new singer, I don't do an introductory class for them. I talk with them before the rehearsal. I inform them of all of these things I will talk about. And then during the rehearsal, I make some additional comments. We'll talk about that. But the introductory class is something I do before their first rehearsal. If I have many new singers coming to the choir, then I wait for all the auditions to pass, for all the people who are going to join the choir to be known, and then I arrange that introductory class. That class is usually 1 hour before the regular rehearsal. So I don't disrupt their schedule as much, because they already know when the rehearsals are happening. So it makes sense the same day, just an hour earlier. This is a good practice because everybody at that introductory class is in the same boat. So they are already able to find a more optimistic environment. Plus, by attending the introductory class, I think you see who's in it for the long haul. If they arrive to the introductory class, they're more likely to be a person who is going to be dedicated to the choir. If they don't arrive to the introductory class, but they excuse themselves beforehand and they come to the rehearsal, that also says a good thing. That says that they respect my work and the choir's timing. They're just not able to come to the class. And if they don't come to the class and they come to the rehearsal without even saying anything, I don't want to say anything bad, but that usually shows me something. That shows me that they don't think they need the introductory class, or it shows me that they didn't have the need to even tell me they're not going to come. The introductory class, you may expect that it's just a singing class. It's not. At that class, I tell them everything about the choir, when it was established, who the previous choir directors were, who I am. I don't give my biography. I'm not an egomaniac, but I think it's important for them to know that they have a person in front of them who knows what she's doing. So I tell them that I have been here with this choir for 8.5 years. That shows something. It doesn't have to be, a biography thing. It can just be, how long are you working with your choir? If I say that I've been working with this choir for 8.5 years or for 10 plus years, that shows that I have some credibility and gives me authority. I get the question of authority a lot for this channel, and I will talk about it. I don't feel equipped well enough yet for that topic to be answered. But I will say that if you come to the rehearsal and show that you have authority to the new choir members, if they accept that you have authority, then they will influence the rest of the group. So it makes sense that you try to establish some kind of an authority because this is the best time to do that. Then I give them all the information about the way the rehearsal is, the way the rehearsal goes. I tell them, for example, the rehearsals start at 8. You have to come before 8 to take your scores. The scores are on the main table. You take all the new scores you have to have for this rehearsal. You have to have your scores. If you were given new scores that are now your scores, it is in your possession and you keep an eye on them. You take care of them. You do not come to the rehearsal without your scores and take new scores every time. We don't have an indefinite number of scores. Also, you have to have a pencil or a pen for everything that I say, and I will mention that throughout the rehearsal. When a thing arrives that I want you to write down, you have to write it down. Then I tell them the positioning of the singers, each voice groups. For one of my choirs, I say, listen, we have soprano first, soprano second, altos first, altos second, tenors, basses first, and basses second. That is something that they need to know. I need to tell them where every choir voice group sits or stands. If I haven't done it before, I have to inform every new singer which voice group they are in. If I told them at the choir audition that they're a soprano, it makes a difference if I have soprano first and soprano second. So I have to inform them if they are the first or the second soprano. I also explain to them what it means to have a soprano first and second. What is the difference? I tell them about the choir repertoire, in which phase the choir is. Are we working on new stuff? Are we working on some new stuff and we are repeating old stuff? How I expect of them to behave, how I expect of them to perform. When it comes to figuring it all out, I tell them that I am aware that they need time and that I will give them time, but all I want them to do is to sing, because when they are singing, it gives me information. That is the only way I will be able to know that they are incorporating in some kind. When it comes to learning new scores at the rehearsal, that is the best thing you can do, because the choir as a whole, with every new choir member, can learn together and they work on their choir sound immediately. However, that is most certainly not always the case. During the introductory class, after talking about the regular stuff, the administrative stuff, then I talk about the basic vocal technique they need to know. I want to give them the language, because if I do that at the first rehearsal in front of everybody who already knows that, I mean, if I don't have an introductory class, I will do that. It's not, something bad, but I will take the opportunity to work on the vocal technique right there and then, because I do not know if any of the new singers have ever studied vocal technique or which kind of a lesson they were given. So this is the perfect opportunity for me to introduce them to my version of correct vocal technique. And I want to explain to them what I mean by certain things, certain sentences, certain instructions that I give them. So for example, I talk about the breathing, the diaphragm, what it means when I say use your diaphragm, why we do breathing exercises, why we do vocal warm-ups, how to open the mouth, how to sing the vowels. That is the basic part, and I can do that in half an hour, and it could be greatly beneficial for them during the rehearsals. Also, you never know the level of the music knowledge they already have, and maybe you think that some of the expressions you're going to use during the rehearsals are very well known to them. That's an assumption. It is not smart to make because you do not know. So, crescendo, decrescendo, intonation, pitch, frequency, a cappella, ritardando, ritenuto, accelerando, andante, tempo, rhythm. These are all the things I explain. It doesn't matter if that's something that is very well known. Maybe a single person will benefit from it. I think it's important for the new choir singers to be met with knowledge, and knowledge is power. I always say that here, and I want to give my new choir members the best opportunity to perform their best. So they know when they arrive to the first rehearsal that is happening in an hour, what to expect. They know the rules, they know the agenda, the schedule, and they benefit from it because when they arrive to the rehearsal, they already feel like they know at least something. After that introductory class, there is the first rehearsal. Two things you need to know is you have to prepare your new choir members. You've done the introductory class, that's okay. So you've covered that. But you also need to prepare your existing choir members that new people are coming and that it is their duty to accommodate them as best as they can. I give an instruction to my choir members that we all benefit from new singers because the power of the choir becomes better, bigger. So if I see an existing choir member to be very rude or very dismissive of a new choir member, I immediately intervene. Because what person would willingly continue to come to a group of people where they feel inadequate or when they can feel a hostile energy? Just to refer to the previous mentioned thing, that if it's only a singular new choir person, the introductory class I do in a conversation before, and I don't make them learn the vocal technique. But then at the first rehearsal, I repeat the vocal technique and I camouflage everything for the choir to feel like they're having vocal technique drills and exercises rehearsal, which we mentioned is a type of a rehearsal in this video. Your existing choir members also have to be prepared for the fact that they're going to go a bit slower at that first rehearsal. You will be repeating some of the things that are usually just known and they are not needed to be repeated, but for the new choir members, it is important. So when starting the rehearsal, I first say to my choir singers that are already in the choir, okay, sit down. And then I tell to the new choir members, this place is your place, this vocal group is your vocal group, and you have to sit in between two existing choir members. That is the crucial thing I want them to do because that makes my choir adapt better. It makes them react immediately. And the new choir members are already better incorporated in the choir sound because they are surrounded by two people, two singers who are already in the choir sound. So by listening to them at the first rehearsal and trying to sing next to them during the first rehearsal, it already gives the choir the better chance that everybody's going to incorporate and cooperate better. When it comes to the old scores that the choir already knows and the new choir singers do not, I do a quick run through the line they have to sing. I just play it for them and then I tell them, listen, of course you do not know this line you have to sing, but I've played it out for you. This is the first tone and you have at least two people who already know it. And that is the point of the choir. A choir is a place when you can always get supported by the people around you when it comes to everything, especially when it comes to the sound. So if you're not sure about the music line you have to sing, listen to the people around you and try to go into it. And for the next rehearsal, you can learn it. You can take the scores home. If you have any questions, you can ask me the next rehearsal. And I will say that for some of my choirs, I record the lines they have to sing, the melodies they have to sing. So if there is that someplace on the choirs, I don't know, clouds or something, you can introduce them to it. During that first rehearsal, I give my best to to be likable. I'm not talking about, pretending to be likable or being extra. It's just about giving them the best chance. I want them to feel safe. I want them to connect with me. I want them to register that I'm the person that is going to help them. And I am not the person who expects them to perform immediately the best they can. I don't expect them to know everything. I don't expect them to be a perfect singer without going through some training. But what I do expect of them at that rehearsal and the next few is for them to try, to be there and to try. So I make sure that if something is not working, I do not lose my temper. I'm not irritated by it. I mean, that's for all the rehearsals. If you have watched any of the previous videos, you know that one of my biggest advice is don't lose your temper, because then you lose the rehearsal immediately, then you lose precious time. So for this first rehearsal, it also applies. When the first rehearsal is over, at the end, I thank my new choir members and I tell them, listen, I know that maybe some of you are thinking that this is not for them and this is not the choir for them, but this is just the first rehearsal. You cannot know. This is just the first cup of coffee we had. So I do have a rule that if you want to leave the choir, if you don't want to join the choir, that is fine. You don't need to explain anything. I will not be offended, nor the choir. But I do have a rule, and the rule is this. You have to attend at least 3 rehearsals. At least 3 rehearsals, because 3 rehearsals are enough to figure out, is it really the choir or was it just your fear? The period of 3 rehearsals is something that I think is good. It's long enough to see at least some kind of a progress. And if you don't see a progress and you don't see a progress when it comes to you thinking about the choir in a good way, then you're free to go. But I ask of you to attend at least 3 rehearsals. And if you don't want to come to the choir again, please just let us know. Now, when it comes to the first rehearsal and the few next ones, what can happen for us choir directors? This is very important. Of course, we just assume that everybody's going to be great because they have been great at the choir audition, but many things can happen. First of all, in most cases, when you have a choir audition, they sing solo or with maybe a quartet or something. I don't know the way you've done it. There is a whole playlist about doing choir auditions. You can watch it here. But the most probable thing is they're singing solo at the audition. You check their range, you check the type of their voice, and then they come to the choir and to the choir sound. If they're not used to singing in a choir, if they have never sung in a choir, it is a very common thing for them to start singing some other lines, some other voices, melodies. I want to tell you that this is normal. And just because for the first rehearsal and for the first time a person was singing something else, that's not the worst thing that can happen. I do recommend giving it some time. One rehearsal does not make a situation. One wrong melody does not make for a bad singer. Sometimes the singer just needs the time to be thrown into a sound around them. That is the reason why I insist of them sitting in between 2 singers, because if they're in between 2 singers from their voice group, then they're better equipped to recognize their melody. It is also very often that people sing a good melody but in a wrong octave. That is also something that comes from just inexperience. I don't think that's something you need to be very scared about, but everything for a definite amount of time is to be watched for. If it keeps happening all the time, then it's an alarm. But for the first rehearsal, for the first few rehearsals, it should be noted that that's something that just happens and they need time to adapt. But in most cases, they adapt just by listening to their peers. What can also happen is the new singers are too scared and too quiet. They're too piano, or they're too loud because they have the need to be heard and they're not aware that they are being heard in the voice group, but in a different way because it is a choir. So that is something that it's not surprising. The psychology of that is actually very logical, because if you keep hearing people around you and you can't hear your voice and you know that you're singing, you're going to become louder. If you want to hear yourself in between other people singing, you will become even louder and it will turn out that you're the loudest person in the group. So I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, because I think it's always easier to manage when somebody is too loud. But now I said it and I remembered certain things, so I'm not going to talk about it now. I have a video plan for that situation, but I'm just saying that if that happens at the first rehearsal, that is not a reason to consider the choir singer to be bad. They maybe just need the time to adjust. And of course, it could turn out that they sing everything wrong and they're very bad singers in a group. Tough luck. First rehearsal, second rehearsal, third rehearsal, if things do not get better, then it's time to intervene when it comes to telling them in a conversation that they're singing wrong. But of course, during the rehearsal, you need to correct them. I will not go, "You're singing wrong notes, adapt or sing the right notes," because telling someone who's singing wrong notes to just start singing good ones is not a solution. It's my job to make them sing the right notes, and during the rehearsals I give my best for them to be able to sing the correct notes. But after giving it some time, if I realize that it's just a problem and things cannot be helped, then I have to intervene in a bigger way, and maybe that singer is not for a choir. Some people are soloists, some people are for choirs. Not everybody is for everything. And if it turns out that they can sing beautifully on their own, but they're not singing correctly in a choir, that is not a failure. That is just their, definition and information that they now have. So I talk about that as well at the introductory class, just to avoid hurt feelings that can maybe occur in the future, because I never know what I can expect. From my experience, this whole process is very valuable, and the way I've done it for years now is very effective. Most of my new choir members stay and they benefit the choir greatly. I think it's always a combination of the right approach when it comes to incorporating new choir members and the old choir members being adaptive, which is very important. And you, as the choir director, have to make that happen, because you are the one who has the authority to influence the way the group will behave, at least in most cases. In the long run, I want to keep my choir members because I take my time to work on the choir sound, and every choir member is valuable. Having choir members in the choir for a very long time is a very beneficial situation, because the people who were once a new choir member become a person who is some kind of a support system for the next new choir members. So that is the circle of life, the circle of choir life, and it's something that I cherish the most. So I hope this little chat about this very complicated topic was useful to you. Okay, so that is it. If you want to check out all of the other videos here, I highly recommend watching the one mentioned at the beginning when it comes to getting new choir members and keeping them. I made a playlist about this topic with all the videos on the channel that I find to be very useful. It also involves a video how to deal with difficult choir members, how to remember all of your choir members' names, and the choir auditions, so check them out. If you like the video, you can press up the thumbs up button. It helps out the channel a lot. And if you wish to see more from Enquire to Choir, you can subscribe and you can watch all the other videos here. There are a lot of them. And that is it. Thank you for watching. Conduct well, conductors, and I'll see you next time. Bye!